Good afternoon, panel objectives and my opponents. As a government, I'm proud to support the motion. In areas prone to disaster, this House believes that states should prioritize disaster mitigation over relocation. To start this debate clearly, let us define our terms based on Indonesian regulation. First, what is the disaster-prone areas? According to Law Number 24 of 2007 on disaster management, a disaster-prone area is an area with geographical, geological, demographic, and hydrometeorological characteristics that make it unable to prevent, mitigate, and absorb the impact of a natural disaster. Now, according to the BNPB, or National Disaster Management Agency, nearly all regions in Indonesia face disaster risk, ranging from earthquakes, tsunamis, and liquefaction to hydrometeorological disasters such as floods, landslides, and droughts. Which means that when we talk about disaster-prone areas, in Indonesia this encompasses the major island where economic centers are located, not just one or two remote villages. Therefore, as the member for the jury, when our entire region is at risk, relocating people is not a wise solution. This is where our role as a government becomes crucial by prioritizing disaster mitigation. According to Article 1.9 of Law Number 24 of 2007, mitigation is a series of efforts to reduce disaster risk, both through physical infrastructure development and through raising awareness and enhancing the capacity to cope with disaster threats. Let's take an in-depth look. What exactly is this sense of mitigation measures we are proposing? We have broken them down into two main pillars that we concrete that can be implemented by the government immediately. First, through physical measures. This is the responsibility of the Ministry of Public Works and Public Houses, or PUPR. For the examples, enacting regulation requiring our buildings to be earthquake resistant, constructing seawalls along the coast to protect against tsunamis, or building lava retention dam near volcanoes. In other words, we are run away from nature, but rather strengthen our infrastructure. Second, through human measures. This is the responsibility of the meteorology, climatology, and geophysics agents, or BMKG, and the National Disaster Management Agency, or BNPB. Examples include installing early warning systems that can send earthquake alerts directly to residents' cell phones, and training residents through evacuation drills so they don't panic when a disaster strikes. So the purpose of our mitigation effort is clearly we make the area safer and train residents to be prepared to face disaster rather than constantly telling them to move our areas. Okay, choosing the relocation will destroy the local economy and residents' livelihoods. Why? Because residents' livelihoods be tied to the land where they live. For example, most residents along the coast are fishermen, and those near the mountains are farmers. If the government moves them to the city or the public housing from afar the sea or their rice fields, they won't be able to work anymore. Their skills is fishing, or farmers will become useless. Ultimately, relocating will be only make residents poor and unemployed. In Indonesia, there are many cases where residents who were being relocating eventually return to their origin disaster-prone areas. Why? Because in their new location, they have no jobs and can earn money. Meanwhile, if we use mitigation such as building seawalls or training residents, we can stay safe while still working to make a living as usual. So, jury, mitigation is far better because it saves residents' lives while also saving their wallets and jobs. Relocating is too costly for the national budget and often ends up being a complete fail in practice. Because relocating a village or a city isn't just about building new houses, the government has to buy new land, build roads, install power poles, lay water pipes, and even build new school and health clinics from scratch. The cost can run into the trillions of rupiah. On top of that, the process takes an incredibly long time, sometimes years. While this process is underway, residents waiting in their origin areas face even greater disaster risk because they receive no protections whatsoever. Data from the state or BPK and the National Disaster Management Agency or BNPB show that many permanent house projects resulting from relocating such as their following disaster in several regions ultimately ends up abandoned and become ghost towns. The residents have fled and returned to their old disaster-prone homes. Why? Because the facilities at the new house aren't ready yet, and the budget has already run out. Compared to that, using those trillions of rupiah for mitigation, like for example building seawalls of improved the BMKG's already warning system, it's more cost effective. The results are immediately felt, and there's no need to wait years. So in terms of the state's finance, prioritizing mitigation is far more cost effective, realistic, and guaranteed to yield result, rather than forcing a costly relocation that ultimately fails.